We're good? Okay.
Thank you. All right. Hello, everybody. This is a regular meeting of the Montclair Historic Preservation Commission. Notice has been given in accordance with the Open Public Meetings Act by posting a copy of the notice on the first floor of the municipal building and by sending a copy to the Montclair Times, the Star Ledger, and the Herald News. The roll call, please,
Okay.
Mr. Penno.
Chair Bennett,
Here.
Vice Chair Hyman. Here. Mr. Greenbaum is absent. Mr. Rooney.
Here.
Ms. Kane-Levy.
Here.
Mr. Reimnitz.
Here.
Ms. Gillette.
Here.
And Mr. Angelo is absent, but we expect him shortly.
Thank you. And our first order of business will be the minutes. Has everyone had a chance to review the minutes? Does anyone have any changes or additions to the minutes?
I just had one change on page 2, line 5. Just change, delete the word findings at the end and change that to recommendations.
Oh, okay. Do you have that?
You say the same on line 17 as well?
Yes.
So line 5 and line 17.
So I just have a question. Do we not take minutes on things like the committee reports? Because I know we talked a little bit about things in the committee reports, and I'm just curious about protocol with that. Do we not record the things that we discuss?
It's on the video, so
And that's
on the
sufficient?
agenda we just do the high-level summary.
Got it.
Well, on the written minutes.
On the written one.
Any other changes or additions? May I have a motion to accept the minutes?
Make a motion to accept as amended.
Second.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you. Now, moving on to the agenda, we do have one addition to the agenda tonight that will be under new business. And
Copies of the agenda were placed back.
I was just going to ask, and Mr. Petto has said that there's copies of the agenda with that addition in the back on the table, so if anyone wants to pick that up, you may. Old business being none, we'll move on to new business. And the first thing on the agenda is the Watchung Avenue Deli. Ms. Kane-Levy is going to recluse herself. So that's noted in the minutes. Do we have anyone here from the Watchung Deli? Okay.
You can sit at the table.
You can sit.
Graham, did you just want to give a quick summary of how this application
Yeah,
came
sure,
to be, or do you want me
absolutely.
to? 'Cause
Or if you'd like, since you
Oh, no,
reviewed
you
it as
can
part
go.
of the
Go
motion. Okay. So just for the benefit of the commission, to understand the process here, the applicant in this case applied to install a new wall-mounted business sign and awning at the storefront for the Watchung Deli at 117 Watchung Avenue, and which a copy of the certificate you have attached in your packet, HPC Certificate 2018-21. And there were a couple of conditions that the minor application committee recommended that the storefront be repaired for the removal of the old sign, just in case there's any damage from the prior sign installation, and that they also recommended that the upper facade be cleaned before they put the new sign up. Then subsequently, the applicant requested to paint the exterior of the facade, and I advised that that is something that requires full approval of the full commission, as this the storefront has never been painted before, so this is an original material. So painting of original non-painted surfaces need approval by the commission. So we're advancing the application that was a minor application over here to the full commission. We'll amend the previously issued certificate to reflect whatever decision is made here tonight.
Okay. So this is before us because it is the 117 Watchung Avenue is identified in the 2012 Watchung Plaza Historic District. Nomination report is a contributing building, which is one constructed during the district's period of significance, which is 1900 through 1962. and it possesses architectural and/or historical significance as well as integrity. The one-story building was built circa 26 rather. So,
And just before we continue, we want to note for the record that Mr. Greenbaum has arrived.
oh,
Here.
hi. I didn't see you sneak in.
Second.
Okay, now, being that Mr. D'Angelo is not here, this is, and it's not testimony, it's not,
No, it's testimony.
That's testimony, but you can
so,
swear
do I
them in.
swear them
You
in?
can swear them in.
Oh, okay. So if you raise your right hand, do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Could you identify yourselves for the record, please?
Dr. Pustis? Ann von Hoffman.
Okay, and what is your relation?
I'm the owner.
Okay,
And Peter Von Hoffman,
okay.
also the owner.
Co-owners, great. Okay, and what you're requesting tonight is, you're requesting to paint over the facade of the building.
It's like a Garden State brick face.
That's what I was just going to say. Is
Yeah,
it?
it's not original brick. It's, because you can see at the top where the awning was, and then right above it is the facade of it's the faux brick.
Right.
So I don't know if that was done at the time. I don't know when Garden State brick face was originated, but it's like, it's a panel of brick. It's not brick.
Yeah, my understanding is this brick facade is not original to the
To the
Right.
building. Is the facade to the left of it in this photograph here, this brick? Is that?
That is Dino's.
Dino's.
Yeah, that is brick, and then the other ones are. I don't-
Okay,
It looks like ours was just cement, because you can see that one
yes,
space.
right.
And it's sort of like a brownish, orangey, and we're getting black awnings and a new sign. We're sort of updating it.
So the color that you have,
Oh, I have the color sample.
right, because you say it's a pale oak, is that
It's
the
called
actual?
pale oak, but it's like that grange, gray tan.
Okay,
It's really pale.
Oh, look at that, thank you.
It's the top one. I don't know.
Thanks.
The bottom one.
Depending- Top or bottom, whichever way.
White dove?
no,
Halo.
pale oak.
Okay. And just for reference, if you look to the last page of the packet, that is the rendering of the sign and awning application. That's what's been approved.
Yes, and that looks very handsome.
And the gold around the window and is all worn, so we were just gonna paint that.
Well, can that be painted?
Yeah, what material is that?
Right,
It's metal.
It's metal.
Yeah, but my
Reliant-
painter said you can paint it.
the architects on the commission,
Well,
what do you feel
it's
about?
probably an anodized
Okay.
material. You can paint it. It does require upkeep. And whereas this, you could probably clean it up and it might show up.
But there's some worn spots. I don't know if you've seen some of the pictures where it's worn. So what, I mean, I'll keep
Are you talking
gold.
about this photograph? Here.
Yep. That, and then there was I think there's two. It's worn in spots.
Well, again, this was probably done at the same time they did the brick face.
Right.
So it's not, unless we're going back into 60s historical significance of changes in buildings, I don't think it is.
I mean, if you have a better application for the brass, I don't know.
I mean, it can be cleaned up, but I don't know how successful you would be.
What do you
I
think?
think painting, I mean, you can paint it, but you're going to have to treat that first and then paint it.
I
Because
won't
it's not
paint-
going
I
to,
won't-
it won't last just painting it. so.
I won't paint the metal. There's not, I mean, it's around the window and around the door.
And the door
But
itself,
the
right.
brick, I was wanting to,
I would comment about what's stone, isn't it? It's not brick.
it's a brick face. It's
a
not
stone
original.
face, isn't it?
Oh,
It's
stone
probably a
face.
concrete.
I think it's precast concrete.
No. It's garden state, so it's concrete stamped,
Stamp, pressed, to make it
Pressed.
look like,
right.
It's sheets, like they come in sheets. We have it on Engelbeck's too.
Is it actually a stone material?
Do you don't remember
you're
Garden
saying
State
it's
brick
not.
face?
No, but I'm looking at it and I'm thinking to myself, I know what Garden State Brick Face is. I mean, is it definitely Garden State Brick Face?
I
Is it like
don't know 100%, but it comes in, it has a backing,
Okay.
and then the bricks or the stones are on it, and you can see the panels, but,
Do you have any idea what's behind that?
I would love to know, but I'm afraid to know. I mean, I would love it if it was like the yellow brick or something, but up top, below where the awning was,
Uh-huh.
it looks like it's just, cement or stucco.
That's probably was added too.
Well, that could have been where the signboard was.
That was where the awning was.
And the awning. And
The awning is going back up, so you won't
Right.
see that.
Right.
The same size awning is going back up, just a different color.
Have you tried to look what's behind it, like from the roof?
You can see, if you look in that space where the awning is not.
It's not, it's just a stucco.
It looks like it's stucco.
I only got one picture.
Here, no, looks like, yeah, it's definitely.
Oh, right, because it stands away from it.
You can see the
Yeah.
Here, right here.
The only thing I would say about the paint is when you paint any kind of masonry surfaces or concrete or whatever, you're sealing the water in. So any moisture that gets behind there is just going to spall, and over time, it's going to break that facade apart. They make different kinds of surfaces you can paint with that will allow moisture to breathe through the surface. So it's not just a matter of a Benjamin Moore paint that you put on. So I would encourage you to do that, and it'll last a little bit longer.
What do you think, that it's going to have any moisture? I mean, it's a panel. It's not really brick, not structural. I think that
It's a
you-
suggestion, you know.
Yeah, I think that possibly that if you could use something that was porous, allowed it to breathe.
Benjamin Moore makes a masonry paint. I just happen to have used it myself, so.
Well, I think what we have to bring the conversation back is
Talk to the DiGeronimo's.
on that whole line of storefronts to the right.
To the
where you
right.
can- Is that black gutter? That's the original brick? I get.
The liquor store right to the right
Yes.
is brick. They just did a renovation,
Uh-huh.
the second floor, and their whole structure is brick, real brick.
Right,
I wish mine was brick, but
It might be, but
but it might be. That's what we're saying. It might be.
not
Behind-
by the looks of, even if I took off the Garden State, is that what you're saying?
yeah.
You can look into it.
I just, is there, aside from the building all the way to the east, that I believe is painted.
Yeah.
Dino's
Yeah.
is painted brick,
Right,
and so was the bigger deli, was
Right.
painted brick. And all of them were pretty much painted brick, except for the liquor store and the salons, and I think the...
Pizza place.
No, the pizza place is
That's
painted.
painted brick too?
I'm pretty sure.
Well,
You can see it in the picture.
Yeah.
Is it
Right.
painted?
It doesn't look painted, actually, in the
Oh,
picture.
then maybe that's not.
You might be talking about the back of it.
so, just tell us why you want to paint it. Why do you want to,
Because I'm trying to like update the style of it, and
Right.
it's like yellow and orange,
It looks dirty, so
And
we're
we
fixing
had
the
a blue
sign and the
awning.
awning, and then the rest of it looks dirty.
and we were just
well,
trying to
is this
match it.
material able to be cleaned? Can you clean this material so it looks,
Yeah, you could use, I mean, if you wished to, you could use like a trisodium phosphate and bleach and have it scrubbed down. I mean, there's very little actual surface area. You're talking about a
The
total of
the whole
like
building is
50 square
16
feet.
feet wide,
right,
and most of it's glass. And the awning will cover it. Right behind the sign will be a little on the either side, because now the sign is smaller. The sign used to be the whole width of the building,
Right,
and now it's smaller.
right.
And so it's really just on the top, and then the awning is, and then it's just really the two little strips and the bottom.
Okay. Okay, so, we have a situation before us where this is not the original material. Our design guidelines do not advocate painting, masonry, original masonry. The fact that this is not original, how do you feel about this? Ms. Gillette?
I don't see any reason you should spend time and money preserving or cleaning a facade panel that wasn't original. And I think that painting it is something that, should we actually ever change our minds, is just paint. We're not asking them to alter it. But I do agree it would be nice one day for you to expose the beautiful brick building you have behind there. If that would be our ideal goal, would be to return it to a state of something more beautiful.
But I didn't.
But I would not recommend spending time and energy cleaning fake facade panels. I think painting it nicely and cleanly is something you can easily and cheaply keep clean and nice, and make this block feel fresh and without altering the scale or the size of the, I think it's a great idea.
I don't, my first thought was brick when the awning came down, but there's a cement, and I would think that would be brick if they
Not
put the
necessarily.
Garden State on top of it, but it's not.
I mean, they
I
may
didn't
have
see
removed, we don't know exactly what they did back there, but
They may have covered it over. and-
we can't really instruct you to do that.
Okay.
But it would be lovely if you would return it to some beautiful historic state. But
Okay.
I just have one real quick question. How does the pale oak color compare to
Right.
the new sign that you're going to put up? Is it
It's
provide
actually
enough
really
contrast?
pretty. I just put it in my apartment.
Oh,
It's,
great.
it's a very light gray.
Mhm.
It's really, really pale.
Okay.
And with the black
Mhm.
awning and the signage.
Do you get enough contrast from the white with the
Mm.
white deli sign?
With the white deli?
The
new-
background.
The background of the white. Yeah.
I have white trim at my house and the gray. It's a very subtle color.
Okay.
It's not, I didn't want, but it's enough to, I don't know, out in the light like that. I haven't experimented.
Okay.
I just thought
well,
the
that's
color
always
was
just
pretty.
good architecture practice to paint the thing out in the real world and make sure that it's an appropriate color for you. The
Well,
sun
I think
changes
they-
things.
I think they did. Isn't that a
That was
sample?
like
No,
prime.
that was-
that
that was
we
prime.
started to prime. I didn't realize I wasn't able to paint.
Yeah,
Oh.
that's
So that's the prime.
Oh, that was going to be my question, because
Oh,
this
yeah.
looks white.
Yeah,
I was
that's the
wondering what
primer.
what that was.
No, we started priming.
And then
Oh,
I was
okay.
stopped. I didn't know that was, I didn't know I had to do this.
I see. Oh, yeah, because this is definitely a...
White, that's
white,
right, white.
which I was surprised about.
May I ask you a question? Are you the owners of the rest of the deli as well as the owners of the building?
Yes.
Oh, okay.
Want to buy it?
No, I just, I'm a big fan. That's all.
What?
I'm a fan, and,
Mr. Runnis, what do you have to say?
I agree with Jennifer about things just fine to paint it. I guess then the only comment would be, what color do you, but we can't comment on color. Can we comment
Well,
on
we
color?
we can
could
express our
turn-
opinion. We can express our opinions, but we
Okay, I'll
can- we
express my
can't.
opinion. If we're going to do it, then we should do something that looks like it belongs with the rest of the block. So that, I can't tell what this looks like spread. To me, you get far enough away, it looks white to me. So I would tend to do something that blends in more with the rest of your
district.
neighbors
Right.
and community, so.
Well,
No? Okay.
Yes,
can I go?
Mr. Greenman, yes.
I think it's fine, paint it. We're going to spend more time talking about it than the time it takes to paint it, and it'll look fine, it'll look clean and fresh, and why not?
I really believe that if I put the pale oak and it looks white, I will thick, I want to get it to a soft gray is my intention,
Yeah.
to have enough contrast and.
Just do it in the sun. This is just an architectural suggestion, to
Right.
see what it looks like in the
I
sun.
didn't even think about it until you
Yeah.
said it.
Do you have the actual sign material that the background of the sign will be on?
Tracy? Tracy?
Yes.
Do the sign material?
Yeah, it's a framed aluminum sign we're using.
Well, the color, though?
The background.
The background
The
color?
background.
Background is a matte white.
Oh,
Matte
Okay.
white, okay.
But what is the frame is black?
The actual
Silver.
molding that we
it says silver.
is silver.
Silver, okay.
That actually allows a little contrast between the wall and the sign. Sorry, I gotta be smart in it.
Come and talk about it.
What's it here?
You can stand at the podium. Oh.
Podium.
Okay, so basically, it's a framed aluminum sign. The background is a matte white, and it has a silver molding all the way around it, which creates some contrast between the wall and the color that's going to be painted and the sign. And as far as your question and blending into the background, you know, there's depth in that sign, which it's about 1 inch. So it's gonna be perceived as, you know, just it's gonna distinguish a little bit from the
Standing
wall.
proud of the wall. Okay.
Exactly, and the graphics are black, so it's clean also, just like
Right.
the awning is.
Are the graphics painted on
No, they're
decal? They're vinyl?
Yep.
Would you ever consider maybe pin-mounted letters, something a little more?
Yes, but it's a very uneven wall.
It's already,
Oh, it's already been
It's
approved.
already, yeah, it's been
Okay.
already, yeah.
okay. Thank you.
Sure.
I don't
Mr.
have any
Henry.
other comments. I'm fine with the painting.
And Steve,
You know, I don't have no problems painting it, because it's not a historical fabric. Also painting the metal, I don't have any problems with that. I don't know what color you're going to paint it, and you've got metal on both sides of the building besides around the doors
Right.
and windows. I think that it'll make the whole building just pop out, which I don't think is a bad thing. I
It's a
think it'd be
really small
nice.
building.
It's a very small building.
Right, but that's why I sort of wanted to clean it up, because
Right.
the previous was blue and old.
as part of our recommendation, could we indicate or say that the best-case solution would be to remove the existing?
Best case, yeah.
Veneer?
Well, that's
Yeah.
not part of what the applicant has applied
Right,
for,
but
though.
we can make a
Oh,
recommendation.
but we can make a recommendation, can't we?
So the certificate really needs to respond to what the applicant has applied
Oh,
to.
okay.
Oh, okay, whether or not the existing material can be painted.
Right.
Okay,
It can be.
and it can be. And so my question then is, if
I
you,
do have a question. Can I ask you a question?
Mm-hmm.
I don't know anything about Garden State brick face. Is it drilled in? Would there be holes?
Well, the way I
There might
understood
be.
Garden State brick face is that generally, if I understand, it was basically spread on, and then they put a cast over it, you know, so, but this looks,
It's like panels.
yeah, see, I don't know.
It's like panels that they put on, because they have it at Engelbeck's, I have the same thing. It's like they come in sheets,
Right.
and then they just adhere it. I don't know how they adhere it. I don't know if it's drilled in or...
Is there any place where this fascia is visible, you could actually see what's behind it? Is there any place?
Yeah, where the awning was, the picture. You see the two...
So it's just laid right on top of what was stucco?
Correct.
So basically, there's no material behind there presumably of any importance?
Not that I could see.
Okay, so I think the issue of removing it would be somewhat moot if there's nothing behind there of any.
right, well, no, well, but they're asking, they're not asking
We're not
for
asking.
painting, they're not
Yeah, I
asking
said
that. I just
paint,
say
paint.
as the recommendation that it go back to the original material, but, so then my question is, painting that door surround with the door frame, that's going to get a lot of wear there? Is that a practical solution, to paint that? Wear meaning, you know, people are going to be hitting into it and,
Well, I don't know. Yeah, I think it's
Guess
gonna
you
get
just
wear,
wanna
but
wear
it's
the
worn, so
doors
I could
will
leave
go
the
on.
gold and just leave it light gold. I could leave the gold.
I think if you're going to leave it gold, can I make a suggestion that maybe the border around the sign, instead of being silver, be gold to match with the trim? Just a suggestion to kind of keep it simple? If it's not too late?
Sure.
I'm just saying, if you're, you know,
Yeah,
Yeah, it's a simple switch.
yeah, it's just an extrusion, I'm sure, a metal extrusion.
Not a shiny gold.
if you just clean it up a little
Just a
bit.
matte gold that blends. I'm sure you could find something.
It's an anodized gold.
Yeah, there you go.
Right, so it can be cleaned if there's any material left.
If it's worn down, it still can be cleaned, but not
It can be
brought
cleaned.
up to.
It might be worth cleaning it and see what you get, because you'll have to clean it anyway before you paint it.
Right.
Same with the
So-
brick, you're going to have to clean it before you prime it and paint it if you're going to get a good finish, so.
You might just take a look at what you get before you go ahead and paint
Okay.
it. See if there's something. See if
Okay,
it's all right.
so our recommendation would be,
Well, we have no, I think our
We're
recommendation
okay
is,
with painting.
we're okay with painting if that's ultimately what
So
they
this
choose to do.
is, just for the benefit of you guys, this is not a recommendation, you guys are voting on this matter.
Oh.
So
So,
you have to
uh,
need a motion
sorry.
and a vote.
based on what I've heard, I'm going to make a motion to approve the application with the condition that the brick be painted and the trim be left and cleaned.
and also,
I second
no,
that.
no, no, wait, and also the surround of
And
the,
to
there's
amend
three.
prior approval to change the color of the framed aluminum side with the silver molding to brass or bronze, something to match the trim. Second?
Yep, second.
Do we need a,
Yeah, it sounds like everybody was.
All
you
in
just
favor?
said
All
we're
in
okay.
favor?
Aye.
Okay.
You guys are all set?
The angry dwarf wins.
I'm going to keep the
Thank you.
sample, I think it might look good.
I'm special on incorporating the angry dwarf into your
the panels
signage.
painted and the metal?
Take care.
Thank you.
Thank you.
You can keep going.
Okay. Second on the list is application 2018-26, 237 to 249, Lorraine Avenue, Keller Williams. This is referred from the Minor Applications Committee, and this is sign installation. Is anyone here? Okay. And for the record, Ms. Kane Levy has returned.
Do you want to wait for Mr. Hyman?
He ran out.
Did he recuse himself?
I think
I thought
ran
he was
out
getting
to find
on you.
No, he saw me, and then he.
Oh, here he comes.
Okay. So, this is an application for 239-245 Lorraine Avenue, which is in the Upper Montclair Historic District. It is designated, it is considered a harmonizing building. This two-story brick building is known as the Warner Building, and it was built in 1928. Can you, I guess...
Do you want me to give a little background?
Yes,
For the
and
commission?
then we can swear them in? All
Then
right.
we can proceed. So, just a little bit of background on this application for the benefit of the commission. As we all know, the 237-249, I think, is the full address range of the building, appeared both before the planning board for the additions to the building, the expansion and reconfiguration of the parking lot, but almost simultaneously, the applicant here this evening, Keller Williams, appeared before the Zoning Board of Adjustment, seeking use variance relief to occupy a portion of the first floor. Office use is not permitted on the first floor in the neighborhood commercial zone, thus they needed use variance relief. The Zoning Board of Adjustment granted approval for the occupation of the subject business on the first floor. That was subject to a number of conditions, one being that the storefront spaces that on Lorraine Avenue cannot be occupied by the office use directly and must be occupied by retail use or other, occupiable spaces. So the applicant discussed and presented plans for Montclair Bread to occupy one portion of the storefront in front of their use, the office use to the rear, and Studio Montclair will be occupying the other portion of that space. So those two uses will be at the front, towards the front of the street, and then the office use will be at the rear of the first floor. In addition, the applicant is also occupying the complete second floor of the building. As part of the zoning board's approval, the zoning board reviewed signage, which was presented during their testimony, and the board was very strict in conditioning the approval for the signage. The two storefront wall-mounted signs are to be for those storefront uses. So one is for Montclair Bread, as presented in the plans this evening, the other for Studio Montclair. Keller Williams is permitted to have window graphics on the entry doors. The two entry doors on the facade in the center of each of the storefront areas lead to staircases that go up to the second floor. In addition, the Zoning Board of Adjustment permitted, as part of their approval, said that they could have two projecting signs, one on the Lorraine Avenue facade that stands off, visible on Lorraine Avenue, and the other on the parking lot servicing the building. Both of those two projecting signs, just for the Commission's benefit, did not require variance relief. You are permitted to do two projecting signs, one fronting on a public street and one fronting on a parking lot that services the building. Okay? So
Thank you.
presented this evening is the signage plan consistent with the Zoning Board of Adjustment approval for this application.
Okay. Thank you. Do we need to swear them in?
If they're testifying, yeah. Want to stand?
Sure.
You're both testifying, I assume? Yep. Great. So you just raise your right hands. Do you swear affirm that the testimony you're going to give before this commission tonight is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? Yes. Thank you.
Thank you.
State your
Can
name.
I identify yourselves, please?
Yes.
And what your connection is with the project?
My name is Julie Corbell. I'm the managing director and broker of record for Keller Williams Realty in Montclair franchise.
Okay.
My name is J.C. Aviles. I own Competitive Science and Graphics here in Montclair, and I'm going to be working on her project.
Okay. Thank you. So as we see here, you're proposing, as Graham has told us, two blade signs.
Mhm.
And then I was a little confused as to where the KW, is there anything in these storefronts here?
I think it was just the construction.
Or is that just the
No, no, but
construction?
they have them in the window.
Right.
Graham, that's what you were saying?
So in the center, you'll see let's see, what page are we on?
This is probably a good, so on the two swinging doors.
Correct, those two.
There's the signage graphics.
Yep.
And then these two signs above here are for the Montclair Bread and Studio Montclair.
Correct.
And the blades,
The
where's the
blades
blade?
will be
One,
exactly there. One is going to go here, like it was.
the other is
One in the parking lot of it.
on the other.
Where is it on the plan? I'm sorry, I didn't see it.
Not there?
Which elevation are we looking at? The front of the building.
Here, right here.
I have
No, I see that picture.
one is here, facing
Right.
the parking lot, and the
Okay.
other one is
A perpendicular,
Yep.
okay.
Can you explain what, it says double-sided aluminum sign with dimensional white letters and reverse LED lit channel
Sure.
letters?
Okay, my original request was to do before we went to that was option B for us. What we wanted to do is push through acrylic letters, where the sign, every letter has illumination through the edge only. So the letters were going to be opaque. No illumination was going to go right through the letter, but it was only going to come like a halo effect
Right.
through the edge of every letter that you see here.
So backlit.
So it has a dimension, this,
Correct, and I have samples for you to show you. This was the original one, and I only have 3 copies. I'm gonna pass them
Is
on.
the heritage sign a good example?
No, that's not it. That's a reverse channel.
Well, this is the original, but this isn't what you're proposing?
No, correct.
Oh.
That's what I was proposing previously, but not what I'm proposing tonight.
Oh, then
So-
should we look at this?
Well,
What should we be looking
And
at?
just,
Why don't we
just for,
just walk
okay,
through what
so-
Yeah.
you're proposing?
what I'm proposing tonight is basically as the heritage, as you can see that, those are halo reverse lit channel letters. The illumination comes directly from the back of the letter to whatever hits on the wall, anywhere. So it's going to be the same thing with this sign. Only those letters, KW, are going to do that. Okay? The rest of the letters are just dimensional, flush up against the sign, about 3/8 of an inch thick. Okay? That's the only illumination part of that sign, on both sides.
And they're going to be backlit but opaque.
Yes.
Right, channel letters.
Halos.
Right,
Yeah, it's just
Right.
like Whole Foods.
got it.
It's just like pure energy. We did that project, so this is basically exactly what I'm proposing tonight. So you can see daylight during the day, and
Yeah,
we got
got
the
it.
side.
Great.
And then the second page is the effect that KW would have on this particular site.
I don't think we've actually seen blade signs illuminated.
No, this will be the first one, except for the, of course, the Whole Foods one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No,
that's
I
the-
think it's, oh, we can't talk yet.
And so, okay, so these are the blade signs, and then the two signs that are over the storefronts for the retail space.
Correct.
Where are they?
Are those subject to our approval as well? Is that part of the application?
No.
Is there a reason why these two signs are black on a white background, why they don't match the two signs to the left in terms of color and...
And/or material?
Well, we did those, we got approval for the signs next to it too. It's just what I'm proposing right now as far as color. Emperor ends, I think they had a specific color that they want to use for those signs on the background because it was part of the logo. And that's the reason why they wanted us to do that when we asked for approval for those signs. But these are different, so I had a copy, oh, here it is.
Interiors and garden, is that a different?
Pardon me?
No,
There's two different,
Signs, yeah, interiors and garden,
But they're the
ampersand.
same background color.
It's one,
That's
it's
one
one retailer.
is-
Right,
It's one retailer.
right, they're the
Yeah.
same.
Yes,
One retailer on the
yes.
other side of the door?
It's one retailer
one
with two
retailer.
signs.
So the one that you're proposing, the new ones you're proposing are white?
Correct.
And there's a different,
Okay.
the actual structural aspect of the sign is different from the Emperor's interior sign?
The material is exactly the same except for the graphics, which are going to be flat. That's it.
Yeah, I think it would be great to, may I have a
Yes.
comment?
Mhm.
I think it would be preferable to try to have consistency in terms of the structure. I'm not necessarily, I mean, I'm not going to be a stickler for the color
Mhm.
per se, but I would say that it looks to me like the Emperor interior sign is a raised panel
Correct.
off the wall with raised letters.
Yes.
And I think that it probably would be best if, from a size point of view, proportionality point of view, and lettering point of view, it should be consistent.
Okay.
I
And I
mean, with the respective
Right.
logos, of course.
I understand. Okay.
Well, not only that, but the lights are in now, and the lights are in all the way across, and the lights are uniform across the top.
Sure.
So I think that having that uniformity in the sign would
Preferable.
make it much nicer.
Yes,
Well, it's just a matter of cost, so I think that's the recommendation.
that is a recommendation. But we have to, I guess
Wait.
we'd have to vote on it.
Weren't those lights part of the?
That was
Original
part of the
application?
original application.
Yeah, that's part of the
those-
original.
Like, those should be installed anyway, right?
Yeah, and then they're already
Yeah.
out.
Okay.
Yeah, they were approved. They were already
The
approved.
developers are installing the lights.
Okay. I have a question with your frosted door graphics. Where are they going?
Those are vinyl letters,
Yeah.
window-mounted vinyl letters?
Yes. So those are going on these doors here. One and two.
And what does this door go to?
Right.
The middle door?
Yeah. The center door goes, there's two doors that goes to the second floor. They could, out of the, because it's historic, they had to keep the doors going to the second floor. And that goes to our space on the second floor.
And both entrances serve the same tenant, Keller Williams, or is there the other door being used?
Both entrances to the second floor serve Keller Williams.
So will you
Because we're
have-
occupying the entire second floor.
So will you be putting signs on both of those doors?
Yes, we're allowed to have 4 signs, so we're putting one each to the doors that lead to our second floor space.
No, I understand.
Just the
Okay.
doors to the space.
So is that only on this side of the building?
I think we need some clarification.
Oh.
So,
Yeah,
so
we
the
need
window
clarification.
the door graphics are only going on the doors that go to the second floor, is that correct?
That's right, right?
Because I don't think that's what
I'm
is
confused
shown.
now because
So just,
If-
yeah, for the
if
benefit
these
of
two doors
everybody.
go out, there are two doors here on this entry here?
No, so if you
single
look
door.
at,
Right now, there's two narrow doors. I don't know if you're replacing them.
Yeah.
if everybody takes a, in the photo that's on the back of my memo, there's two black awnings shown on the front of the building.
No, so the door
Right.
goes to the second floor, so, oh, okay.
The
So
two,
it's the doors that lead to the back of our, apologize.
Oh,
It's the two doors that lead to the rear space that we're occupying, because those two entrances, our partnership
one.
with,
That's correct, okay.
our partnership with Montclair Bread and Studio Montclair is such that it sort of melds together. So the entrance going to Studio Montclair could also go to our rear space, and the entrance of Montclair Bread, with the bistro tables and all that, could also lead to our rear space. So both doors lead to our rear space in the back,
Past the retail.
past the retail.
okay, so to clarify, so there's window graphics proposed on each of the storefront doors that serve the Montclair Bread and the Studio Montclair spaces.
Oh.
And that is because the arrangement as approved by the Zoning Board of Adjustment is that those two uses are subtenants of Keller
Subtenants.
Williams. And the primary pedestrian entrance, if you're
Right.
walking along Lorraine Avenue, is
Right.
through each of those two storefronts.
That's right. They're going to hit Montclair Bread right away, and they're going to hit Studio Montclair before they come to the
I
rear.
guess just for clarification, are the two entry doors that are underneath the black awnings, as shown on the back of the memo that I prepared, are those entrances to with the steps up to the second floor, are those to be used by pedestrians coming to Keller Williams, or they're primarily going to enter through these storefront doors?
Well, because they're going to be left open, pedestrians could also go upstairs to the second floor, but from our, I
Your
guess...
operation
From our
standpoint.
operation standpoints, we'd like for everybody to get to the rear elevator to go to the second floor, but for safety reasons, we also want to use it as an entrance and an exit.
Well, do you have a sign in the rear then, as well?
Well, we haven't planned that out yet, in terms of the signs to the rear, probably in the elevator that says Keller Williams to the second floor.
So may I just have for clarification?
Sure.
So if I'm going to enter, let's start with just one, Montclair Bread Company, I'm going to pass through a threshold that says Keller Williams on the window.
Actually, two entrances, the black door, they could get through the black door, make a left turn, there's a door, or they could get through the glass door.
So, wait a second. Right now, when I'm looking at this picture,
He's asking about this and this.
This
Yeah,
was
so they
deliberated
could
at
go-
Yes,
length.
correct.
Yes,
Knowing
that's
just
correct.
for your
well,
benefit.
I've actually walked into I know this building. I've walked through the building, I've been upstairs, I know the building.
Yeah.
So I know that it's a very odd building because of the narrow staircases and the way it's configured. It was a very unusual configuration.
Believe me, we didn't want too many entrances, but we were not allowed to close windows and doors, and,
So
the
it-
developers were not
So
allowed.
basically, from Lorraine Avenue,
Yes.
the way I'm understanding this is there's two storefronts. One is the bread company, the other one is Studio Montclair. Those are two, quote, retail tenants, but they're going to go back a certain depth, but beyond that, there's actually office space occupied by Keller Williams, in addition to the second floor. Is that correct?
Right, but the first floor is not office space, it's a multipurpose room.
Whatever.
Yeah,
But it's
no
your
offices.
space.
There-
It's Keller
there's no
Williams space.
offices,
It's not-
yes, but
okay.
we're occupying-
I just want to,
Yes.
I'm not discussing the legalities of their
Right.
relationship.
All right,
So, hold on, so I want to understand something. So the two doors that I'm looking at, that say 3'4", these two doors here, these are glass. Okay? Those doors are going to say, in both cases, on the left and right, Keller Williams. Is that correct?
Correct.
Right.
And then the center door is actually the door to the staircase that goes upstairs to the Keller Williams offices.
That's correct.
So, let me ask you this question. What is the sign over is there any kind of signage?
It's an awning, I think.
It's an awning, no signs, no
Is it-
sign.
No
It's an
sign at
awning.
all? I mean, wouldn't it make sense to have an awning that says Keller Williams over that center door and eliminate the Keller Williams over the two storefronts here? It's kind of redundant, and this is more, your focus, I imagine, for the street. You're getting the benefit of more signage and visibility with Keller Williams over the black door, I guess we call it a black door,
The black door.
and having an awning there, and then having these doors be specifically the tenants, Montclair Bread Company. It seems a little too over the top. There's Keller Williams everywhere.
I think that those two doors leading upstairs directly are egress doors. They're not designed for them to go into the building.
So you don't want people, you're talking about the panel door, not the glass
Uh-huh.
doors. So the
Panel
panel door,
doors.
you don't want people to enter from there?
Well, actually, they could, because when you enter the black door,
You're in a
there's
staircase.
another door that leads to Montclair Bread,
Right.
and another door that leads to Studio Montclair.
But people can enter Montclair Bread separately from the front door directly.
Right. That's the way they designed the space.
No, I got it,
Right.
but it just seems to me from a logic point of view,
Right.
even, it's a little, I think, from a point of view of the consumer walking down the street, I
Mhm.
think it's a little confusing. I think you're better off focusing the attention to the middle door as Keller Williams and having the right door being the Montclair Bread Company and be exclusively perceived as the Montclair Bread Company, and the one on the left be the Montclair Studio, I guess that's what it's called.
Studio Montclair.
Studio Montclair, and that be, so each one has its own kind of pure identity. Right now, you're going to confuse pedestrians. They're not going to know which door to enter,
I
even
think
though
when they-
technically they could walk into any of them.
Any of those doors lead
But
to,
but I just think it would be,
right.
my thought is, it would be more coherent to do it that way.
So just to get this straight, you're only proposing graphics on these two doors. What is this in the center?
That's just a close-up of the proposed
That's just a
graphic.
close-up of
Just
the
a
door.
detail.
Dimension, nothing is in.
So there's not four doors that have these graphics?
No,
I
no,
know.
no,
It
it's only
looks-
two. Yeah,
Just
it's,
a detail of the door.
Okay.
yeah, it's just pointing to each door on the left and then the right, that's all.
No, I agree with you.
Oh, you do agree with me?
I agree
Yeah, I
with
just
you,
agree
too.
with you, too. Do you agree?
It is confusing to walk into a door that says Keller Williams to get
buy
into
bread.
Montclair Bread.
Yeah.
It's
I
all
think
part
that's
of
what
the
everybody's
arrangement that
saying.
the zoning board
But I
established.
don't-
I think we understand that there's a very complicated
We under-
entrance to
yeah.
this building, but I think it's also true that it's confusing to walk into a door that says Keller Williams to get to a bread company, although you could
They
walk
might sell more
in
bread.
any of the doors.
Any of those
They might
doors.
sell more bread.
I don't think, I think that the understanding of the, if I'm projecting out my perspective, my hypothesis, the Board of Adjustment probably just wanted to make sure that they were compliant from a retail zoning point of view. And being that the entrance to that black door entrance only technically serves, or should perceive, normally would only serve the second floor, even though there are doors on either side, it's best to focus the attention to that being the Keller Williams entrance, and the other two being the respective tenants on either side.
Can you get to the elevator
Pardon
from
me,
there?
sir?
Can you get to the elevator from there?
Yes, you could. You could get through the elevator from the first floor.
From any of those entrances, can you get to the elevator?
from
Or only
the
through
retail
the
space.
other subtenants?
For further clarification, the entire space is essentially open. It's
Once you get
Montclair
inside
Bread,
one of the
Studio
17 doors.
Montclair, and their multi-purpose room for Keller
No,
Williams.
there's a nice
One
flow
large
that goes
open
around.
space.
Oh, right.
So
It's like a food
it's
court.
really kind of like an open
Right.
space.
Once you're
The
inside,
idea
I'm
and
not
part of the
concerned, but the signage from a point of view of
Understood.
clarity and
Right.
for the, and plus, this is just me as a former graphic design background person.
Sure.
It just seems to, and advertising, I mean, it just seems to me that you want to be singular as a brand, not distributed. And I think it's just too confusing.
Well,
Yeah.
is the blade side going over the black door?
No,
To
it's
the
all
right.
the way in the
Blade
corner.
side is in the top.
No, there's two blade signs. There's
Yeah.
one,
One on one corner, one on the other.
the blade sign is going
They're
here?
perpendicular to each
The
other.
sign is going up here,
Oh, it's up here. Okay.
and then the other one is on the other side of the door.
Are there awnings going to be over the other storefronts? The Ampers and?
Yes, the awning is.
There's only two awnings over the entry
They're only
doors to
over
the
the
second
doors.
floor stairs.
So are they?
And those awnings were approved as part of the planning board.
Right.
The planning board application had a master signage plan.
Right.
And no signage was proposed as part of that master signage plan approval on the awnings.
So basically, is there an awning being specified at this time that's a particular color, that's tied to a particular tenant? or
The awning is
already up.
It's already
black
up.
and
It's
already
kind
installed.
of
On the
dark
back of the
gray.
memo that I prepared, I took a photo. You can see the awning already installed on that photo.
Now, I have one suggestion, but I don't know how that's gonna go with the already approved,
So Graham was with us all the way, and we were approved for 4 signages. I know, it was like a whole 9-month
that's what I was.
saga on the signs, and
I'm
eventually
having
they
a
said,
little
all
bit of
right,
deja vu from the zoning board.
Keller Williams allowed 4 signages
Yes.
that lead to that whole
Right.
It's the two
You know.
projected two-blade signs and two window graphic doors.
2 windows
That's
and
it.
2 blades, and we said, yes, we'll take it.
Well,
But you haven't discussed the back yet. The rear,
so why do you make
where-
that the
where's
fourth, do the one in the middle
I don't think
there?
there's an entry from the rear.
Yes.
What they were saying was you walk through the front entry to the rear of the building.
No, but
No,
also
there
from
is
the
an entry
parking
from
lot,
the
there's a
parking
rear
lot.
entrance.
Oh,
This was an
excuse me.
application that we did before you were on the board.
Okay,
So there's a
pardon me.
rear entrance that gives access to the parking lot and then to the elevator.
Oh,
So that should be your fourth sign.
Pardon me.
On that side. No, I'm just telling you.
yeah, no,
In the
no.
front was what we.
This is
Yeah,
the most
no,
complicated
the board
building.
approved, the
This
board,
building has been hell.
the board approved 4 for the front, public-facing facade. That rear side, that's not a public facade, that's not a public
They were
facade
not
on the
concerned
rear.
about what we're going to do in the rear.
Okay.
I happen to think the 2 blades and the one over the center of the black door, you're done. That's my thinking.
You could do 2 signs, one on either side of the black door.
Right,
Right.
right.
There you go.
No, there's 2, one on either side. of the
If that's,
black door.
So if you propose a new sign location for this building, the applicant will have to go back to the Planning Board Revisions Committee to modify the master signage plan to incorporate that change. Just wanted to note that.
Well, maybe we should ask, have you had success with this type of signage and direction from the street? I mean, is this something that,
That's fine. That should be bread.
Well, this is
should be-
hopefully our second and final move ever for our business. We're coming from a different location, in 15 Bloomfield Avenue, in the mall, in the
Panera.
Panera Mall, which obviously we kind of feel we don't really belong there, but it was our initial, space. And this one is just, perfect for us. And we went through the entire process with Graham. And the forefront signage, we felt, focused on where people can converge. In fact, seeing the KW there is double purpose, because, let's face it, most, if not all, of our, competitors and colleagues in other brokerages are all on the first floor street levels. And I guess they had to go through the entire process as well, and were approved without the complication of having separate retail names, but we devised it in such a way that it was consumer friendly.
Yeah, no, it's a great idea. It's a great solution. I just think the signage should be consistent with the concept that you've come up with.
Well,
And so based on that, my colleague here suggested that you put the 2 signs, instead of putting it on the front of the Montclair Bread Company and Studio Montclair, put it on either side of the black door and the glass panels, the side lights.
Instead of this door and that door.
Right.
that
Now,
what you're saying?
the only possible confusion is if we were to decide that, street traffic could go up to the second floor, we would only do it in one side, the right-hand side, because it would create confusion on the other retail space, the other door, black door leading to the second floor. We would for security purposes, we don't want every door to be accessible to everybody.
Right.
So we decided if we were to use entrances to the second floor, we would only use our side of it.
Right.
And we would permanently,
directed to that door?
Right, so
They
if we
wouldn't
had
be
a s-
directed to the other door?
so if we had a sign, JC, on this side, then people will direct their side to see if they could enter through that door. And
Yeah, but.
most probably,
No, we're not
No, we're
suggesting
not
Oh, I
for
saying
see.
both
that.
doors.
I think they're saying, yeah.
Suggesting for
Panels,
one
there are 2
door,
glass
right?
panels.
Yeah.
This is the main door.
One
this is the
door.
main There are 2 here and here,
She's saying that
actually,
instead of doing it on these doors.
Graham, when you said you took the picture, I don't know, because they're so tiny, I don't know what kind of
Yeah, I
sign
think
can be
that's the
visible in the street. They're really small. They're
And I
just
believe
glass
they're
panels.
Are they divided light windows?
They're divided.
Yeah,
line.
they're just
They're
little
really small.
rectangular glass panels.
So then do a sign right above that door.
Yeah.
That would be a new wall-mounted business sign, which was not approved by the planning board. It would require
Yeah,
a change.
no,
in
no,
Issue is
master
the
no.
plan.
location, right, Graham?
So there is really no issue. So, I mean, the zoning board of
No,
adjustment.
no, no, but I meant in terms of recommended changes. If we change the location,
Correct.
we have to go back.
Right. This,
we can
you guys
recommend-
don't have because of the
Right.
master signage plan in place, there is no jurisdiction of this body to move the location of the
Right.
sign.
But we could recommend what they're
That they
putting
just
on those
install one of
signs to
them,
make it
or-
clear.
You can do that, correct.
I mean, the
Original,
perfect
just for some
location-
additional background, I mean, the initial proposal by Keller Williams was for these two wall-mounted signs to say Montclair Bread and then a large @ symbol, KW, and then Studio Montclair @ KW. And the
'Cause we're
zoning board felt
partners.
that-
We-
Because
That's
it's a
what I was
partnership.
getting at, because I
But the
saw
zoning board
this.
felt
We
that it
love
was
that sign, but
too...
they
Really?
disapproved it.
They felt it was too much Keller Williams, so that's why they eliminated
Yeah.
those.
What if you do
But
something
for Keller
similar to
Williams
that with
signs,
these-
it's not
with
too
these
much Keller Williams?
door graphics where it says just Keller Williams? You kind of
They
keep
felt,
the
yeah, as part of their condition, they felt that the door graphics was a little bit more muted and kind of
Yeah.
allowed the other storefronts.
But I mean, you've got the Montclair Bread and the Studio Montclair like standalone signs at the
Yes.
top, but then on the door, since those are shared entrances, you know, really small. Kind of use that same concept, like you'll have the Montclair Bread,
Right.
and then the full Keller Williams sign, and then
Right.
you know,
I
but
think-
on the door instead of
yeah.
up on the.
That could be a way of addressing that it's
So
an
you're
interest for both
proposing to
uses.
modify the window graphics to
Yeah.
include the
Right, to include-
forward tenant.
Keep it
So
predominantly
have that
Keller
be,
Williams.
yeah, have
but
that
at
be
least
like
just-
Montclair
so
at
people
Keller
like when
Williams.
they're looking at the sign and then
I like
they look
that.
at the door, they say,
At
well, I don't
KW.
want to go to Keller Williams, I want to go to Montclair Bread. We'll see, oh, this is also the Montclair Bread.
That's a good solution.
Yeah, I think that's a good solution.
Okay.
All right.
So individually,
Actually,
the Studio Montclair and the Montclair Bread will have their individual signs as presented to the board.
Right.
And then we'll have the smaller in the glass Studio Montclair at KW
Exactly.
and Montclair Bread at KW.
Although I do like the recommendation that you try to match in material and scale the ampersand ones, because that would really help unite this as one building. Obviously, the color, the logo, all that
The-
stuff is
the green
is
logo.
their own thing.
Yeah.
But if you could at least match the scale and the,
Yeah, no, we will.
Well,
We-
scale, I agree, because I think you and I had a discussion of that, JC, to say proportionately, the sizes should be the same.
Yeah,
for-
the
for-
scale and the general
for good
details of
visual.
the
Materials, everything will
design.
match it.
Yeah,
Everything will match it.
I think that would go a long way.
I like the idea. Does it have to be, Graham, presented again to?
No, we just have.
can we also touch on these?
Wait, just a sec, just a...
The vertical
So-
signs, because they're 6 feet tall, you know. I think they're very big and they're illuminated, and when I first saw them, I wasn't comfortable, but I don't know. Is
Are
this
they
Is that part of the, was that approved
I don't
already,
think it
Graham?
was illuminated. I think they've talked about it.
Well,
being-
they're halo lit letters.
Are they now?
Oh, right. So
Are they
7,
illuminated now, the blades?
It's a good idea.
They will be.
Okay.
Halo lit, yeah.
well, how proportionately,
So this-
the KW looks like it's about a third?
Yes.
Quarter.
No, not a
Right.
quarter, it's a third.
It's a
Yeah,
third,
the very last page of the,
Right here. So
Yeah.
that's what, a third of, that's 24 inches? 24 inches is a third.
Just about, a little bit under that, because you got the line there too. So,
And the line is lit?
no.
Okay.
Only KW.
Only KW. So 24 inches, that's lit.
Right, but the sign itself is just very big. Is that
Right.
something
The
that?
zoning requirement, what's permitted under the zoning ordinance is that projecting signs shall not extend more than 3 feet from the facade of the building and may not exceed 12 square feet in area. And this, they're proposing 2 by 6, which is consistent with the requirement.
Okay.
And we have no control.
We have no control over that.
Right.
Can't supersede. the-
No. And I think if you look at the illuminated part, it's, you know, it'll be about that big. It won't be the whole thing.
And signs with height, they get smaller. They look big on the ground, but once you put them up, you know, that, the one from Whole Foods is about 20 feet. That's a huge sign. This is only 12.
I know, that's Bloomfield Avenue.
Yeah. Okay, so we have 3 recommendations.
Again, this is a
Did you
vote.
want to go back to the,
Right,
the door signs? You have a question?
Well, I like
Oh.
your idea because, Jason, if I may, because that was our original proposal.
Right.
It actually just, from the public's perspective, that we are, holistically all joined together because we decided to partner together.
Right.
So the at KW was originally presented, but we were denied on the
Right.
top sign. But Jason, your idea of putting
Yeah.
it on the glass with the at KW, then gives us the whole dynamics of that
Cohesiveness.
Right.
that
But I
we're
do-
working together.
But I do think, I walked out for a minute, but I do think that this is my opinion, the Montclair Bread Company at Keller Williams, I think the at Keller Williams should be smaller than the Montclair Bread Company. I think it should be Montclair Bread Company and then maybe the at Keller Williams a little more
Right.
smaller.
Well, they already have their own big logo just
Right.
themselves on the top.
Right.
So
But no
they
one's
already
going to
have
be
that.
confused about which storefront is which. I don't
I
think.
just think, well, whatever.
Yeah.
I just
But,
think
but
that-
it will be consistent because the Montclair Bread sign, the big one on top, and then the door will still have the Montclair Bread sign logo at KW. Not at Keller Williams, it will just say at KW.
All
I
right,
think
well,
that if it doesn't work, you come back to it.
Right.
right.
Okay, so, Mr. Emmons gives
I
another,
was going to say, I don't have a problem with the blade sign. I know it's 6 feet, but when you see it in the photo,
Long ways away.
Is that the scale? Is that Toronto scale?
That's very close to the scale.
I mean, the windows are probably 5 feet high.
Yeah.
Double hung.
Yep.
So that's probably about right.
Okay.
okay, so Graham, we have 3 recommendations then, correct?
So we need a motion and a vote, so it's a motion with the conditions, and then we'll...
Or conditions? So,
I propose that we accept the proposal with the amendments, which are,
Modification of the window sign to include, I guess, the respective subtenant at KW. And then, was there another recommendation?
that the scale and the materials of the tenant sign over the over the
storefront.
storefront should be similar in scale and material.
Detail.
And
Detail.
mounting.
Yeah, well, material, wouldn't that be?
Materials and
There should be a
details.
consistency, a uniform visual language along the entire facade between all the different tenants.
Yeah, I originally installed those signs, so we'll match that the same.
Oh, and then the third one I thought would be one about the blade sign, but we're all fine
We're
with the
okay
blade.
with the blade
Everyone's
sign.
okay with that.
Except Caroline.
We'll take.
Do we have a
Does
second?
the illumination of the KW, how bright will that be?
Well, I'll get you the specs on that, the cut sheets on the illumination of it, but it's pretty much standard. I don't have that info in front of me, but I'll get that to you.
No, I'm just wondering if it could be a lower wattage or whatever you call it, so that it doesn't,
Lumens.
illuminations, lumens, so it doesn't,
Well, the thing is, when it hits a white background, the darker the background, the brighter it becomes. So this is not as dark as a black or, as a dark blue. So it'll be soft too. Not to mention that everything is going to be white illumination. So I'll get you that information as well.
okay.
You
So-
say you're going to get us that information. Is it coming back to us?
No.
No, but, so maybe we should have a condition that it not, how do we say that? That it not be overly bright?
Can we review this at a different level?
At a,
Oh, yeah, at a
revisions committee.
revisions
Yeah.
committee. No, let's do that, that the blade sign,
HPC Revisions Committee will
Right.
review the lighting of the...
right, okay.
blade sign.
You submit the
So that's 3, those are our 3.
You submit the specs. I agree with everyone because we just want a little halo effect.
Yes,
right.
yes.
A little
Yeah.
halo,
Because you get
Okay.
bad reaction if it's very bright.
Yeah.
little halo.
Okay, so do we have a
second.
motion? Okay, we have second motion. All in favor?
Aye.
No opposed?
No, this is-
Okay. Thank you.
Thank
Good
you.
luck.
you.
And you're all invited to the grand opening.
When is it?
2 years in the making.
Yeah, but when is the grand opening?
Well, we're trying to coordinate with Ampersand to have a joint grand opening and sometime in September.
Oh, great.
Okay. let us
Thank you
know.
so much.
Yes.
Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Graham,
Right.
thank you.
Smile.
The resolution.
Okay.
We'll do that real quick, and that way we're good to go.
All right, okay. What we'd like to do now is change the order a little bit and discuss the resolution for the HPC consultant. because I might have to leave early.
Okay.
So everybody in their packet received the resolution.
And then I placed an updated version that everybody
Oh,
sees.
Great.
Which should be updated?
The only change was the amount from 3,000 to 4,000, correct? Okay.
Wait, let me just find that. This is it. Right, okay.
So we can discussion now?
No, just give everybody a highlight. This is
So you,
This is who
Yeah.
we've hired.
Yeah, so as you recall from last meeting, we received several applications in response to our RFP for a consultant. We narrowed it down to two, and Kathleen, Graham, Janice, and I met with those two candidates, and based on those interviews, we decided to go with Connolly and Hickey Historical Architects LLC. They are also the HPC consultants for Glen Ridge, so we thought it was also a good idea to kind of have that cohesiveness with the neighboring town. The billable rates looked good, and they had really, really comprehensive services. They have an architect on staff, a historic preservationist, and then several other researchers. And who else do they have on staff? They had someone else. It's like 4 or 5 people.
Office support. It was really
Yeah.
basically office support and researchers.
And researchers, yeah. So we felt that they would be a great fit for us, and we decided we wanted to move forward with them, subject to the full board approving.
would they actually attend our meetings?
Yes, they could.
But only when we ask them?
Only when we
Yes.
asked. They
Depending-
wouldn't,
Yeah, depending on what was being heard that meeting, what we are having them review, because with a lot of applications, especially with the planning board, we will get consulting reports
Mhm.
from the planning board. So in those circumstances, we may not need them, so they might not attend the meetings, but it depends on what's being heard.
So I have a question as well. So I trust your interviewing and judgment, and these people looked pretty good. My question is just that, will we have an opportunity to see their reports and make comments and request like additional this or like as HPC commissioners, do we have the opportunity to guide their work? Or are they or do they just get dispatched, provide report, done?
Well, the idea is they would work hand in hand with the planning department, so they would get a first look at all of the applications that came in. Then they would, provide the reports. They would be in our packets, and then they would be a resource for us. We question them on the reports, things that they found.
So if I want something that's not in there, can I ask for it? I'm just trying to be straight here.
I think that would have to get worked out, just in terms of,
Logistics.
logistics of when they get the applications, when they're deemed complete,
Yes.
when they can put the reports together, and then when it goes out in the packets.
So is this-
But certainly, if there's something that we know that's coming down the pike, if it's an application that we've heard, they've done a report, and then the applicant has to come back at a subsequent meeting, we definitely can have that follow-up in that dialogue. And, with the consultant getting kind of a first look, there is going to be some dialogue between the consultant and the applicant. So there is that ability where, in the past, we just got the applications and we, saw it for the first time. Now we've got the consultant who can call them up and say, hey, I was reviewing your application. I need this, this, and this. And
But we're entrusting the consultant entirely to provide the information we as commissioners might want.
yes, but to the extent that, you know what general category of things you want to look for, you can let them know, and they'll, look out for those things, and they can press for you.
are you asking because of the application form that you want to?
It's part of it, and it's
Yeah.
part of tonight's application as well. I mean, it's been a recurring sort of point in my experience that there are often things that I would like to have the benefit of asking to have been provided before the meeting.
Mhm.
And I'm just trying to find the best avenue to do that. Who, where, when, what, and why, so that when we're here, we can be assured that we have everything we need to make a quick and efficient decision. And I'm overjoyed that we're going to have assistance. I just want to be able to if the need should arise, direct the research and say, I see this application too, I don't see this drawing, this photograph, can you get that for me before our meeting?
Maybe once we get our packet, and when we get our packet, there will be the initial presentation or review by the consultant.
Yes.
We'll have that window of time between the
It's
time
like
we
a
get the
4-day
recommendation.
window. I mean,
Yeah, that's not-
it's like a 4-day window. It's not really enough time to
I think
read,
probably the
review,
first time-
ask, get,
The
provide.
first time that we meet with them,
Mhm.
that's when they'll get all the information that they will need that we require, unless you want to meet with them ahead of time.
I don't particularly want to, but some applications have more, specific requirements that are not,
Yeah.
that
but I
are
don't think-
generally,
I don't think that they can kind of figure that out until we tell them.
Yeah, I think bottom line is if you're working on a form which kind of establishes expectations of what we need in advance of it being presented to us, then it
That
will be
should work.
incumbent upon them to make sure that they
Right,
check
it's
all the
in-
boxes.
It's included. I mean, one thing tonight, I would have liked to seen the facade of all the stores on
right. That's a
Watchung
perfect
Avenue.
example.
to-
Right.
So, I
And
mean,
even-
that's,
And even the ampersand, like to see how they're doing consistency, they only showed the storefront for
Right.
Keller Williams.
That's a perfect example.
Right.
Piecemeal together.
Yeah.
yeah.
We want to
So,
see things
but
holistically.
that's something that you're working on with the update of the application.
Yes.
Okay. And this consultant would also be dealing with any of the violations and compliance issues that are certainly,
Rampant.
yeah.
In what way? How are they dealing with it?
Well, what Graham has been doing in the past, which is basically when somebody calls in or writes in a complaint and they're out of compliance with, in the historic districts, and then Graham has to go out
Yeah, I think,
and,
well, and once the contract is finalized, we're going to, we'll meet with the consultant to kind of work out a work plan for them to do some visits to each of the districts within the course of a month and identify issues, also follow up on post-approval compliance to make sure that things have been installed.
right, so not
for
only will he
approval,
be
so.
dealing, but he'll be looking for things as well, which I think,
So basically, after a particular application has been approved, he might have like a tickle list X number of months later to go back and approve to make sure there was compliance
Correct.
with the terms. And while doing that, he could also survey in the area to see if anything else is out of compliance.
Correct.
That's great.
so what we've been doing now with things that are out of compliance of people that have called up or made, I guess, a complaint to Graham. Graham has been dealing with that, and sometimes it's successful and sometimes, but it's a lot of footwork and time-consuming.
So more than likely, they could probably budget like 2 days a quarter or something to just do compliance issues and survey issues as a means of just kind of
I think that
systematize
that will
it.
be part of our initial work plan discussions
Right.
once we set up our kickoff.
We're going to stretch this budget.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's 60 hours, that's 60 hours.
Well, once a quarter.
For the rest of this year, right.
That's it. All the money.
So,
And I just wanted to note, we do have the clause that it's exclusive of applicant escrows, so new development applications have been paying the additional escrow fee that's required for historic preservation advisory reviews, so that's how the reviews will be
right, and I think that's where it would be
covered.
very important for this consultant to do the historic research background of the applications and the significance within the district.
So what you're saying, just to make sure I understood this correctly, when one applies, if there's an application presented to the commission, ours or the planning board, which involves our oversight or advice,
These are, development applications filed to either the planning board or the board of adjustment. There's a separate line item for an escrow deposit for a historic preservation advisory review, which we're now collecting.
so so they will be subsidizing, each application will be subsidizing the cost of the consultants.
Correct. That's
Great.
why the resolution says exclusive of applicant escrows. So the $4,000 amount does not include that amount.
And just because I don't know, what is the cost of an application that needs to be, when someone has a fee for that, what is that fee?
The fee varies widely.
Yeah.
We have- It's a broad range of fees.
Based on the application?
Based on the
Right.
nature of the application, the number of variants being sought, the type of approval that the applicant's seeking.
Okay.
So,
The
do
full application form and checklist and fee schedule
Yeah,
available on the
it's-
website.
It's online, I was gonna say, I was about to say that.
I'm
But-
making a motion to
Do-
approve.
I second.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, great.
Will they come to our next meeting, maybe?
Well, we're going to
introduce
ask,
themselves?
yes, as everything is straightened out, we're going to invite him to come in to the next meeting. All right, now, the next one is a referral from the Board of Adjustment, application 2559, 35 Afterglow Way, Lauren and Zachary Zelser. It's for bulk variance of maximum permitted building width in the R1 one-family zone. And this is in the potential Afterglow Lloyd Parkhurst Potential Historic Area.
Hello. Hi. Okay, so,
You both testifying?
I'm sorry?
Are you both testifying? Both going to speak?
Yes, we are both.
Okay, sure. Raise your right hand. You want me to get their names before or after? Doesn't matter.
It doesn't matter.
It doesn't
Okay,
matter.
all right. Do you swear or affirm that the testimony you're about to give this evening is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do so.
Great. State your name.
Zachary Zelser, I'm the homeowner of 35 Afterflow Way.
Edmundo Lopez, I'm an architect and representing the homeowner.
Thank you.
Thank you. So, can you walk us through the application, sir?
Yes. The application is for a swimming pool, a four-season swimming pool that's going to be attached to the side of the house, which is the reason we're here. The swimming pool itself is not going to be a part and parcel of the house, but it will be attached to the house on the side yard. The house itself, I think it will have this document, is a single-family residence, 2.5 floors, actually 3 floors, and with a garage on one side, and with a cascading property that goes down to the Kimberly Academy back there. Okay. And the owner wishes to provide a swimming pool, approximately 1,400 square feet, off to the side and set back from the front elevation of the house into the side yard. Into the side yard. I'm not sure if anyone has had the opportunity to go out and see this property, but yes, I did. Okay. So the residence is over on this side, and the swimming pool itself is about 15 feet away from the residence, and it's a four-season swimming pool, a simple gable roof. The skylights are retractable so that during the summertime, the three sides of the swimming pool will be open to the elements. And the swimming pool is backed up to a parapet, an existing parapet that has been there for a long time, in order to, number one, keep the rest of the site as pristine as possible, and also to, the sight lines for the swimming pool itself are such that there's only one elevation that's really visible or subject to being visible, and that's the back of the swimming pool itself, which is against the retaining wall. And although the swimming pool is about 15 feet in height at the ridge, the height of the visible portion of the pool, the swimming pool assembly next to the house is only about 3 feet above the parking area for the residence itself.
I'm sorry, I'm confused. May I ask you a question?
I'm sorry?
I'm a little confused. You're saying that the visibility, there's some wall that...
There's a parapet that's up against the front of
It's
the
a
wall,
bank.
of the
Is that the MK parking lot?
property.
Is that the
Oh, I
one?
don't know.
No.
This parapet is part of the grade of the property itself. If you...
Is this the side facing the MK parking lot?
No.
I'm
Which,
not sure what the MK parking lot is.
No,
MKA,
it's not.
Montclair Academy.
No.
That's way down.
The front of the property is on Afterflow Way.
Yes, I completely understand where the property is. But I'm just trying to understand.
The border between the Montclair, Kimberly Academy, the backyard for the parking lot is against this property.
Right. Got it. So it's facing
So-
east. The facade that you're pointing to that is of interest at this moment is the one facing east.
Here's the
No.
MK parking lot.
The one facing
Facing
east, that is
west.
correct.
No, but the one that you're pointing with the ridge
Is on the west side.
is against the wall is facing west.
Yes, the wall, this portion of the wall is
Right.
facing west. Yes.
Right.
Right.
Okay. That's why I was trying to orient myself to what you were trying to present.
If you come down Afterflow Way from
From the north.
from the south going north,
Oh, from the south, right, okay.
okay, going down the hill
Right.
to Bloomfield Avenue. The swimming pool is right here. Now, the elevation of the street itself, the outside street, is actually even higher
Yes,
than this residential parking
Right.
asphalt here.
right.
And there's a great deal of landscaping that will be retained along this border between the circulation street and the
Right,
swimming pool and the retaining wall.
right.
Can I ask a
Right,
simple question? Yeah.
Wait, could you, are you still confused with?
I have a couple of pictures that might help.
Why don't you
There
just go
goes.
through your save questions till the end?
This is a photograph of the residence. I'll pass it around. But basically, this is the front of the residence here. The swimming pool will be against the retaining wall here that actually drops approximately 15 feet or 12 feet,
Got it.
okay?
So the issue here is its visibility from the street.
Yes, the visibility from the street.
That is the concern
Wait,
from the point of view of the
wait,
variance.
let's just go through what you're suggesting. I think you finished, and then I want to recite a little the historic context of this.
But what I want to understand before we go any further, this is a variance coming from the Board of Adjustment, is that correct?
Yeah, so if you'd like, I can review the nature of the variance.
Yes,
So
I
the
would really
requirement
appreciate
is that a principal structure cannot exceed 65% of the width of a lot. In this case, the addition, while it does conform to the required side yard setback, the resulting building, because it's attached by this small covered breezeway, will result in being greater than 65% of the width of the lot.
So
So
what
it's a
we're trying to
width, it's a width
determine,
of building variance.
so what we're trying
Your
to
jurisdiction
determine-
is to determine, the impact of the proposed addition on the dwelling, which is identified as a potential
As the
historic.
proposed historic district.
Got it, got it.
And this subject property at 35 Afterglow Way is also known as Casa Deltra. It's listed on the National and New Jersey Register of Historic Places. It was constructed in 1912 and was designed by Montclair architect A.F. Norris. The property is identified in the 2016 Historic Preservation element of the Township Master Plan as a property listed on the National New Jersey Register and also located within the proposed Afterglow Lloyd Parkhurst Potential Historic Resource Area. And because this proposed building will be visible from the street or from the sidewalk, that's why we have to look at this now to see what the impact will be in the historic district.
I have pictures. This is the sidewalk above the addition we're talking about. This is the front of the house. And our proposed swimming pool is next to the staircase on this picture. Okay. It's in the elevation that's below the elevation of the street.
If I may, just functionally a question, Mr. Lopez. So the proposed addition is really aligned with the basement level, I guess, for the dwelling? Is it? I mean, the property slopes down, so as viewed from Afterflow Way, this addition really aligns with the basement level from that perspective. And the peak of the proposed roof of the swimming pool will project about 3 feet above the grade of the driveway. So it's that visible 3-foot peak that will be seen from the potential historic.
You have a picture of it on the other board.
Yes, the little, yes.
It's on here.
No, there were some additional
There was
photos.
some additional photos.
Can you pass those forward?
How much lower is the house entrance from the street? It does kind of go down.
I don't have access to my front.
Where's the street?
Over here.
But
So where's the
the street
retaining wall
itself
then? It's here.
is approximately 4 to 5 feet
Here.
higher than the elevation of the
Front door.
front door
Right.
asphalt.
Right. And you've also got a stone wall or something in front with
Yes,
2 gates.
well, the stone wall is along the outside perimeter of the front lawn. And it's all original to the house.
Graham, I have a question for you. If this particular pool house was not connected to the house with the breezeway, would it
still require a variance because that would be an accessory structure in a side yard? Accessory structures are only permitted in the rear yard.
So by putting the breezeway, that's how they circumnavigated the issue
And
of...
it's part of the principal structure, correct?
That is correct.
Okay, so that was a choice.
Would have required a variance in either respect.
Right.
And it also helps with the swimming pool a lot. The bathroom facilities and the dressing for are in the basement of the house, basically.
So I'm just doing a little math here. The main sort of box of the swimming pool is roughly 12 feet, and then you have the 3'6" pitched roof on top.
Actually, it's like this portion.
So it's like that. So I'm just curious if you looked at what kind of ceiling height you would get in there without projecting 3'6" above the existing retaining wall.
They had that picture.
With structure and everything, you could probably get a 12-foot
12-foot
height. And could you
12
achieve
feet.
many of the same goals that you were looking at in terms of operable? Does the roof operate?
The roof operates.
So could you have an operable roof without projecting 3'6" above the existing retaining wall? I'm just,
Per swimming pool consultant's recommendations, the swimming pool itself is of the dimension that it's easier for the dissipation of the vapor to go up. 15 was recommended. I mean, actually, this not 15 feet. This height here was recommended.
the 15.5
Yeah.
at the peak. So did you study a lower roof line?
We tried to bring the roof down as much as we could. We probably can go another couple of feet if we need to.
Just
that
wondering.
would, right, that would be,
I'm sorry?
that would be better than having
Well, yeah,
it project high.
You have to also remember the way the topography works. Well, the landscaping will do a lot of it, but it's a magnificent view when you go from south Afterflow Way toward the north, Bloomfield Avenue, and you just look off to the right. It's just spectacular. And the idea was to position the swimming pool, first of all, so it's not on this terraced landscaping that comes down to the Kimberly Academy. But to keep it back against the retaining wall, I think it preserves the historical value of not only the front, but the back. The back is actually more magnificent than the front is.
The back of the existing, of the residence.
So basically, we have to make a decision as to,
You're making a recommendation
A
to the Board of
recommendation.
Adjustment.
to the Board of Adjustment as to whether or not we feel this is appropriate in the historic district, prospective historic district. And we can make recommendations if we choose to, as part of our recommendation, as part of our response.
Yeah, you can request conditions of approval. So consider the lowering the height of the roof could be one, these kinds of material finishes could be another. So making recommendations.
Once we're done with questions.
Any other questions? Because I'm going to ask if the public would like to comment on this.
I just have a question. Can I?
Sure.
So there's a significant series of landscaping. I did a site inspection, and in my memo, Figure 4, I took a photo of the area. There's a lot of landscaping in the existing area. Is any of that able to be retained? Is that going to be lost as a result of the construction?
It's mostly retained. If you go to the backyard, the retaining wall itself, that's up against the front face of the elevation of the house, is about 15 feet. I mean, actually, like I said, the basement is actually the base floor of the residence.
Yeah, I understand. I understand the grade change. I'm asking about the line of trees along the property here. Will that stay? That doesn't need to be removed as part of the construction plan.
We could make that a condition.
Right.
And we could actually, for all intents and purposes, the landscaping you're referring to, is that something that kind of mitigates the visibility of the peaked roof?
Well, I guess that's a follow-up question from Mr.
Right.
Lopez. Would this be visible?
What I'm trying to say is that this portion,
I think you wanted the other one, the one behind it.
well, this one's okay. This portion right here,
Right.
this part right here, this grade, is beautifully landscaped. And the pool will be up against the retaining wall that's supporting that landscape. So I'm not
So what you're saying-
disturbing the retaining wall itself.
What you're
We're
saying is-
sandwiching to it.
And the top left corner picture, go to the top, right there's a retaining wall against the face of the pool. Step back, I don't know, how far back is the retaining wall from the end of the pool house?
Well, the retaining wall is the back of the pool,
Oh, is the back of the structure.
is the back of the structure.
I see. And then how high is that retaining wall?
This retaining wall will be about 12 feet.
12 feet. And so there's a 3-foot extension of the peaked roof.
Exactly.
And then above that retaining wall, there's landscaping that conceivably could be higher than 3 feet.
Yes.
Well, he's saying that it's existing, and it's this photo.
It
Figure
exists.
4.
It exists.
Not going anywhere.
It's way more than 3 feet. It's maybe 10
Yeah,
to
so-
15
feet.
Okay, I got it. So should we?
Well, I just want to see if we have any public comment. Does anyone from the public wish to speak about this? Yes. Please come up to the podium. And just identify yourself for the record, please.
Frank Gerard Godlewski. I'm from Essex Fells, 249 Runnymede Road, Essex Fells. I used to use the artist studio across the street at 36 Afterglow and in the Renaissance Revival House. And I love Casa Dedra. I have in my collection wonderful old photographs, and historically that's a marvelous place because the houses were built as very glamorous vacation houses for people from New York City, and it's by Norris. Not only do you see it from the street, but you really see it from downtown, and it's spectacular. And the design is too, and the gardens were just absolutely magnificent. And what I think that this pool structure does is it adds a lot of value to the sort of the original program as a luxury house, because The lot has been subdivided and the gardens have been lost, but there's been a modern house built next door, and there's the shared driveway going to the carriage house. I was also the realtor that sold the carriage house recently. So you try to think what you can do, and I like this project very much because it adds glamour. It sort of gives glamour back to the property, and it's definitely an improvement to the neighborhood that was, a very, very glamorous vacation neighborhood. And so you don't really see it from the street at all. The only thing is, I don't know if you know that there's a lot of underground water. You can hear it. It's very audible.
We're having soil tests taken care of.
Right. There's like a river.
Right.
Mm.
Right. We actually did a garage on the other side of the side yard, and because as elegant as this house was, they didn't have any, garages to garage their cars. So again, we chose not to use the back of the property to insert a garage. We did it on the side and attached it. So nobody had seen this, right?
I've seen it. I've seen it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So when you take a rebar and you go down with a rebar, trying to find good solid soil to put your foundation on, and I went down 6 feet. So it's the groundwater is
Problematic.
Yeah, you can hear it at sometime. The original carriage house has 4 stories. I don't know if you've ever been in it. It has 2-story spaces. It sort of looks like the Baths of Caracalla when you go inside. It's amazing.
I have not had that privilege.
Yeah. But anyway, I really like what they're doing. Thank you.
Thank you. I have a question. The peaked area the gable area that you'll see from the street that will be obscured by the landscaping, what material will that be?
Standing seam metal roof.
A standing seam middle roof?
Metal. Copper.
Yes. No, I'll probably paint it olive.
Okay.
Just so that, I guess it could patina, but that's a lot of copper.
It says on the drawing, just copper standing seam roof.
Well,
That's a color?
we could make in our conditions, we could make a suggestion on that, in terms of material.
Well, what is the material for the facade that will be visible from?
Exactly the same as the house.
God bless you.
Stucco.
Which is stucco.
Stucco.
Real stucco.
Yeah, real stucco. 3-coat stucco, just the way I did it on the garage.
Hand applied,
Yeah.
not ephes.
Right. To match existing.
Any other questions or?
No.
We have comments?
Comments?
Yeah, comments. I did go by and take a look, and I think you did a great job in locating this on the property, and the minor connection you're making to this historical house. You're not just attaching this thing to the house, but you made this hallway in a very discrete connection to the existing house. You could be tempted to apply this to the back of the house, and then we wouldn't have any variances to talk about. I think the location of it is great. I went by, you can't see this thing.
No, can't see it.
You can't see it. And the intent of the 65% width restriction has to do with impact to the street and the facade facing the street. This technically falls into that, but the reality is you can't see it. So I think it's, I don't know how you could have done it any better, so I commend you.
And the reality is that the landscape has to remain.
There's lots of landscape.
Right, has to remain.
We'll make that as a condition.
Right. Any other comments or?
Well, I did not drive by, but I can see what you're trying to do pretty clearly, and I appreciate it, but it does seem like with a little bit more work, we could even see a little bit less of it. So I would encourage just a little bit more work and.
Or drop on the table.
Yeah, and the topography, I agree, that especially I like the comment about, being sad about losing some of the gardens, so I appreciate retaining the gardens, but even just, we're talking about a couple feet here, and it seems like it is mostly obscured by landscaping. I do want to make that a condition, that landscape doesn't get, disturbed and even more plantings, but it just seems like we're so close to really, being invisible as much as you can be. So I'm just trying to understand, you keep talking about coming up, but there's also kind of coming down the street, which will give you kind of a different view. I guess what I'm also missing is, I would like to see, all 4 elevations of this house with this structure in the context. I'd love to see the back of it and understand a little more about what you're proposing relative to the existing historic structure. I'm just lacking a little bit of context, and like I said, it seems like you're quite close to being able to make it work and not pop up at all, that I'm not sure why we didn't go the extra mile to do that.
I try to respect my consultants' decision.
I respect your respecting them, but I also think sometimes consultants need a little pushback.
We're only concerned with the street elevation, so we can't say anything about the back. And it drops off precipitously.
Yeah, and I think, and I don't want to discourage the strategy. I think the strategy is solid, because you really don't seem to see it, and it does seem to preserve a nice landscape in the back. I just feel like maybe we could have gone a little further and really minimized it.
What about raising the retaining wall? When I look at this elevation here, it looks like the retaining wall above grade is about this much. If we raise the retaining wall, we begin to block more of that pediment that seems to show up. I mean, the elevation really is deceiving.
Yeah, this isn't, you're
Just-
not going to
just
see
to-
this in elevation like this.
You're never going to see it like this.
Just to note on the raising the retaining wall that's existing is already a non-conforming zoning condition. They could do a second retaining wall in front of the landscape area.
You're saying they
It's
can't.
too tall
It's
already.
too
can't
tall,
right
right.
now.
But it's
No, no,
true
you're
that
right.
this
Yeah,
elevation.
Yeah, the maximum permitted retaining wall height is 7 feet.
It's not
This is a
accurate
12-foot
to
wall.
how you're going to
When you drive-
experience this
when
building,
you
and
drive
I
by
understand
the
that as well.
property- When you drive by the property, you can't see the retaining
You can't
wall.
even see the retaining wall.
You can't see the
It's
retaining
below
wall
you,
at
it's
all.
below the road.
But 42 inches above that retaining wall is a peaked roof poking out.
You can't see it.
It's way below you see, if you're
You
familiar
can't
with the
see through the
topography,
vegetation.
when you're driving up Afterglow, this house is on the downhill side, and so I would imagine it's probably from the street level to the peak roof, probably to the top of the peak roof would be what, about? Do you know what the height
You
difference would be?
said 36 inches. How?
No, it's 36 inches above the retaining wall, but the retaining wall is still below street level.
Yes,
Right.
it's
Yes, way below.
So
So
as
there's no
you're at the
visibility.
street, the landscape itself drops down.
Driveway comes down, the
Right.
landscaping, and
It's a very steep.
Okay.
Yeah, it's a
Yeah,
very steep.
I just wish we had some more context
A little more
photos.
context
It's
would
very-
help. That's true.
I'm not familiar with the site, so I
Yeah.
don't even
Right.
know how to
How to
respond to this.
respond.
Yeah. I think this is an ongoing thing that we've been discussing,
Right.
this meeting.
Plus
It's
also,
also
you know-
requiring it for us to go by and look at all these properties.
Also, well, just a second, when you do this form, I think we should require all applications to show a, Graham, I want you to hear this too, all perspective drawings to be done from a particular height, like 5'7" from, because otherwise,
this
every
gets-
angle could be.
yeah, This all gets back to the checklists that are set
No, that's
forth.
what I'm
Right.
saying, I just
Right.
said it, but I wanted you to hear it. But I think that it's important for all applications that there's a consistent standard for any renderings or elevations that need to be done from a particular
And that will
height.
need to be codified.
Right.
Right, that'll be
Ordinances
codified
that
with the
change
new
the checklist.
consultant, working with the committee that
Right.
Jenny and Caroline are working on.
So I'm just gonna defer to my colleague here and being familiar with the site and the house, not necessarily, I didn't drive by to see it. However, I'm gonna defer to my colleague here who's been to the site, and I trust his judgment. And based on my knowledge of the site, it seems to me that the solution is a very good solution, and the effect as it relates to the variance that's being requested is minimal to nothing at best. So as long as we have conditions, this is my view, conditions that require landscaping to obscure the peak, as high as or higher than the peaked roof, and that the material, the standing seam material is painted in a color that is a natural earth tone, preferably matching the trees, like an olive. I think that would be a great way to... Oh, it's stucco finish. That's a genuine, legitimate stucco finish, not an Ephes
Right.
finish.
We actually have 3 conditions, the ones by, great. Any other comments?
No.
Okay. So, when our recommendations then, that it's a good solution for what you're aiming for. And it respects the house and the view from the street and what you can see from the street within the historic district. The one thing, out of the 3 conditions would be that the landscape remain and as is, and more landscaping to really mitigate the peak of the roof that you see from the sidewalk. If possible, the roof be made lower. I don't know how you can, even 8 inches, you know, we're not thinking 24 inches. I mean, I think that's what you, but, right, but I mean, even 6 inches or 8 inches. And then also that the material, that the facade be true 3-coat stucco, and that the standing seam metal roof be painted an earth tone to blend in with the surrounding landscape, to be as inobtrusive as possible. And then, just again, is the structure going to be painted the same color as the house?
Yes.
Or you're not going to differentiate between?
I'm afraid that I've already got a gabled roof there.
Mm-hmm.
If I try to change material on the swimming pool, it would just really stick out.
Mm-hmm. You mean change the
front? I mean, from the backyard,
right?
Terracing and the
right
landscaping of the backyard.
Okay, so we have those 3 conditions. And any other conditions that you think? No. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
And just for the benefit of the commission, this is scheduled for the July 18th Board of Adjustment meeting.
Okay.
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 Great.
Thank you.
Now, before we go on to our committee reports, is there any public comment from anybody in the audience that would like to say anything on what we discuss here tonight, or any other? No?
Do you want to retain this as evidence, or can I take it as evidence?
No, we don't need to enter evidence here. You can bring it to the Board of Adjustment meeting. So, okay.
Won't be much longer. Okay, so moving on to committee reports. Where's my committee list?
The agenda should. You don't know.
No, it doesn't have it.
Last week's minutes.
Thank you. Okay, so being that you're discussing, why don't we discuss the newly formed committee for application? What do we call this?
Well, I forgot what we've officially titled it, but, you know, I think that I don't have too much more to update. Unfortunately, it's been kind of busy, except to still say that approximately half the stuff that I want to see or we want to see is actually written in the ordinance already and is not on our checklist, or it's a matter of it actually just being specified or spelled out a little bit differently. So task 1 really is just rewriting it in a way that, you know, I feel accurately represents what's already the law. And the other is to sort of targetedly select, you know, things that we agree on to add to it. So For example, I think that's why I was asking the question about the consultant and whether they might take over some of the responsibility of us, say, passing a new piece of law in an ordinance by just being able to request certain things once we see what their report has contained. Because I think tonight we had two examples where just a little bit more information before this meeting would have clarified the application for the benefit of the commissioners. One being just a quick section drawing so that we all pretty much understood the topography a little bit better. And another would have been maybe, a photo montage of it's actually Watchung, isn't it? Watchung Avenue for the Deli. Just a couple of things that would really make our time here more efficiently spent. So I apologize, I've not yet rewritten that thing, but I will.
Well,
And I wanted to just offer, if you need any assistance, because, there are different checklists for different sections.
Yes.
So we had two different types of applications
Yes.
governed by two different checklists that are spelled out. One's in Chapter 281, one's in Chapter 347.
And I have both of those.
Okay, but I can assist, and really.
Yeah, I just need to get on it.
You guys can directly weigh in on the checklist in 347 much more easily, because
course.
that is the checklist that the HPC uses for the C of A applications. So that is something that we can do. We can always recommend an ordinance change up that goes to the council, refers to the planning board, and then can go proceed to a change. The development application checklist is a little bit more tricky because that's governed by the zoning board and the planning board, so
Right.
that kind of has to go through their review process a little bit more thoroughly. But we have a little bit more control over the C of A application checklist
Sure.
process.
And like
but
I
if
said,
there's
I
anything I
think-
can do to assist,
Yes,
just let
I
me
just
know.
need to lean on you a little more.
Yeah, and we can also just edit the application form to be more consistent with what's in the ordinance, if so.
I mean, I
we
think
can
that
do that as
that's like a
well.
first step before
You say
even,
there's a certain requirement.
there's written in the ordinance certain descriptions for what the application contains, and our checklist does not fully cover what's written in the ordinance already. So there's sort of the issue of updating what an applicant sees, making it clear, and then there's if we want to change anything, and those are kind of two separate lines of action. But I also, and
I think we can quickly and easily focus on reformatting the application.
Right,
We've been
to
talking
just
about,
match
especially
347
now that we
or whatever it
have
is.
the consultant on board. We're going to have to collect escrow fees again for HPC specific applications. So we need to reinsert that information on the application form. So we need to edit it anyway, is what I'm
Anyway.
saying. So we can certainly do that, and I'm happy to help the subcommittee do that
And
work.
they
So.
would be the first line of defense, say, reviewing things.
Right.
And saying, you can't, until you're done,
Mhm.
you're not presenting. to-
Correct.
you need more. You need, everything needs to be put together.
That would be great.
because our clock really, I respect that we have a clock, and I don't want to change that we have a clock. It's just that the sort of completion isn't always the completion that I would want it to be.
Right.
And that's really the issue, is that it's deemed complete, but I'm persnickety, and oftentimes I'm not asking for something that's not already in the ordinance, or that they shouldn't necessarily have. So again, ideally, I want to change a bunch of stuff, but I think it's easy in the first line of defense is to really just update the checklist and have an enforcement, a preservation consultant who's kind of holding the applicants to task
Yeah.
and asking
just
the questions.
One final thing I want to say on that is
Please.
we do have a broad range of applicants from, so, it can be difficult to impress upon
Well,
compliance with the
exactly,
checklist
yeah.
with such a broad range of skill sets and who's applying for what.
And
So
that's
from
why
the
I was
sign
also
to all the way
wondering-
up to a full facade.
Oh, that's why I was also wondering if the preservation consultant might not be a point of contact, because, yes, the application checklist can be extremely complete, but it's not applicable to every application. Forgetting the skill set for a moment, putting that aside for a second, it's not always applicable for everybody. So, and it sometimes makes sense to be general in your language in order to make the application accessible to all types of applications, but then you end up with people with, pretty significant applications without the supporting materials that we would require. So,
Right, and
It's a
being
balance.
that we're hoping to have the consultant on board by next month, do you think you could get that application
Sure.
rewritten so that, without,
yes.
a draft of it, so that we
Draft
can
would be
consider
great.
it, and we're
Happy to
inviting
help do
him
that,
to
too.
the meeting in July, so that that could be the first thing that he actually looks at.
One thing that also I might suggest would be helpful is that since this has been done in countless municipalities around the country, maybe if there's any standard application form checklists that,
I have pages and
Great.
pages of them. It's really-
We've been sharing, I mean, you know, some of the precedents are are satisfy my stringentness too much, and, you know, and that's sort of part of the problem, is making sure this remains an accessible application for people. But, yeah, I'm not really lacking for precedent right now. It's sort of the opposite. It's really understanding the best path to getting what we want.
While also being accommodating to the.
And being accommodating to real-life human Montclarians. Montclarians?
Preservation,
Yes.
Montclarian,
consultant
yeah. Can
make those help. with
Help
that
guide.
and say, if you had this section, that's a big part of this, understanding what's going on here.
Yes. Can we rely on the consultant also to guide the applicant to make a better application? I mean,
Yeah.
if they're
I-
just barking up the wrong
We
tree,
could be
that,
the point person, I think
yeah,
so.
yes.
That's why I'm nervous, right.
Not just provide the materials, but actually to give some design advice
Graham
or
also.
technical advice.
I mean, are you going to still be involved
only do
with
so
the
much, right?
applicant?
Yeah, I mean, our office is the central
The point person,
liaison
right.
between all these entities, so.
With an updated form, with your fluency in that form, you can help guide them to some extent at the initial stage.
Great. Okay, so if we can ask you to have
Yes.
that for next month, that would
I
be great.
do well with deadlines.
Okay. Education and outreach. Do we have anything to report, Mr. Rooney?
No.
I just wanted to mention that the next Research Your House workshop is July 11th from 2
Okay.
to 4 p.m. If someone would like to attend to assist in the workshop.
Am I going to
July
be here?
11th at,
July 11th, it's a Wednesday
At
from
4
2 to 4.
2 to
Well,
4.
I can't make it.
Yeah, I'm not going to be here. All right, I guess we
So
don't have
they said
any.
that they would be okay without a representative from
Okay.
the HPC, but I just wanted to offer that up.
Could you
so.
do me a favor? Could you send out an email right before that, if you don't mind? If I can ask you to do that as a tickler, and maybe if I can make it, I'll know.
Sure,
I
yeah.
mean, if that would be okay? That's the kind of thing, like if I happen to be able to be working from home that day, I could sneak out.
Mhm.
And next is landmark nomination. We've been approached about the Red Cross house that's on, Red Cross building that's up for sale and possibly being sold at 63 Park Street. And when I say we've been approached to designate this a local landmark, I've looked into doing very nominal research on it, and there's no indication of any architect. We can't find any architect. If you're familiar with the house, it has like barge board. What? Oh, it's right over there. But that's the back of it, which is even worse. That's worse. But it's got a barge board, sort of Victorian 19th century gable, and then it looks like it's been Tudorized over the years. So the person that lived in it, however, is Edward Goodall, who was instrumental in writing Reminiscence of Montclair. So we have, I mean, there was somebody that lived there that was important to the town in terms of an author. But if we can't find any supporting documentation as to the architectural style or the builder or anything, does anyone have a feeling, an opinion that this should go any further, or?
I haven't looked, I don't know, I haven't looked at it.
I haven't looked at it.
All right.
I think they were,
Go to maybe the person in the library. I don't know if you've already down that route.
No, I've asked the library, and I've asked the Montclair History Center. History Center, they're on vacation, so they haven't gotten back to me yet. But it's difficult to find architects through. I think the one thing that we could possibly find is if somebody wanted to troll through the Montclair Times newspapers to see, because there must have been a significant reason why the Red Cross took it over, and possibly
What is the actual
1930.
address?
63 Park Street.
And
Google it.
BCA did not do preliminary research to do those for the...
Not for that building, no, there's
Not for
no,
that
there's no structures study on it, there's, it is included in the potential Walnut Street district, so that's, that's another plus for it, but I feel personally that we need to have just another little bit to make it a compelling argument that it should be a local landmark. All right, so what I'll do is when I hear back from the History Center, if we do find something, I'll let everybody know, and then possibly we can start on that. All right, design review and redevelopment.
Right now, if I'm not mistaken, the Orange Street Garage property, which came to us, and we determined that the material was not suitable, is in violation of the master plan. They've come back with a substitute material, which is currently under review. That's the only thing I can report.
Will you see the material? Have you seen it?
They sent us
some things.
some information about the material, but I'm less concerned about the material itself, but what the substrate that it's going on. What they brought to us was an EFS product, which was the expanded styrene with the stucco on top of it, and that's what we don't like.
Right.
Although, this is a totally exterior building on the inside and the outside. It's not doing any insulation. So it's kind of a quandary.
So it's a great point. I never even quite put it like that.
Will you have another meeting?
So I'm looking at what the email says now.
Yes, okay.
Please let me know if this new material is satisfactory. If so, the next step would be to schedule a meeting in the field for final review and approval of materials. So I have not been CC'd on anybody approving or disapproving the submission. The submission was just a day or two ago.
The problem is that there's no substrate that they have.
I haven't reviewed it. So they didn't actually submit.
Maybe email and carbon everybody.
All right, so it's ongoing.
So it's ongoing. Things have moved forward, but not
unresolved.
Exactly, unresolved.
Okay. How about minor applications?
I reviewed.
No, that's
No.
Caroline. I think Caroline did the last two.
Yes, but you'll have to help me, Graham, because I can't remember the ones, other than the Watchung Deli, which
We did the
was referred here.
Which was referred here and went back.
And then
we
also-
just did a couple last week, an awning, Townhouse Liquors, actually right next door to this one.
Right, so-
And then we did another, smoke shop on Bloomfield Avenue was another one. So there's two, so.
Yeah, overall, I'm finding they're getting better, the application.
Good.
And I've
That's good.
actually noticed they've slowed down a little bit. We had a real clip where we were getting 4 or 5 a week. It's backed off a little bit, so.
Oh, wow.
And what about Bloomfield Avenue that you and I went to look at?
That's revisions committee.
Revisions.
We met with the owner and the architect to look at their updated plans for elevations for that terracotta facade that we uncovered, that they uncovered. And we made a lot of suggestions to them in terms of developing that facade. And they're trying very hard to do the right thing. Surprisingly, they came in and said, well, we have two prices here to restore the terracotta. One's $150,000, the other's $120,000. We just can't, it's just not.
What building is this?
It's 220.
222-230 Bloomfield Avenue. It's right across from the TD Bank
Oh,
at Grove and Bloomfield.
Oh.
Terracotta? I think that was like a granite.
Way down there.
No, it's terracotta.
Really?
It's
Is it
glazed
cast
terracotta. Yeah, it's
Cast?
class,
Oh, I don't
glazed
know.
terracotta, yeah.
Caroline got them to strip off the facade.
Yeah,
Yes.
that's great.
Yeah,
I
that
love
was
it.
great, yeah.
Terrific.
I hope they can,
So
So-
if those bids came in too high, what are they proposing now?
We made some suggestions to simplify things and to patch things. and
But retaining.
We are going to restore
right,
the two eagle heads.
Right.
We'll do the terracotta eagle heads, and then we got into some of the detailing of the coping along the top and what the storefronts turn into. It's a big improvement.
Oh, so they're not
It's a
going to
balance.
restore the whole facade? They can't pony up 150 grand?
No, it was really,
So
yeah.
I think the approach would be they don't do any more damage to what's there.
Mhm.
Lock it in place and save it as much as we can.
And I guess just a few notes on that. One is, just so everybody knows, they're going to put some temporary painted paneling over the exposed storefronts, because they're all just
I saw that.
open.
They already started.
So they already started, just so if you see it and drive by, that's not a violation, they're just kind of holding things in place. And I believe they're going to try and appear here at the July HPC meeting.
Okay,
So
great.
their
Great.
new plan, so.
Yeah, no, they're really making an effort to respect the building, which is great. And last but not least, Mr. Rooney,
Planning board.
Planning Board.
Well, the last planning board meeting, the applicant decided that he wasn't going to present Lackawanna. He's going on to the next one. In the meantime, we're looking to hire a grocery store architect.
A what?
Grocery store architect?
Oh.
So we can,
The Planning Board's going to hire a grocery?
planning board is going to hire
A grocery?
Just like a one-off consultant for this
one-off
project?
consultant, right. And we're in the, I'm also on the personnel committee, so I'll be reviewing that too. And it should be up and running by the time we have the next planning board meeting.
By July 23rd?
Yep.
Wow.
So what's the date of that? The
July 23rd?
July 23rd. And we also had, which I thought was going to be a minor sort of application, the building on Park Street, just north of Watchung Plaza. Well, the neighborhood came out with pitchforks and fire.
It was, yeah, it was in the paper.
It was like, oh my God. But everything that we did is, we just tempered the building. You did a lot of work on HPC, so that worked a lot. And the building itself, the only variation is the parking requirements.
So, just to repeat, the next meeting is July 23rd. So it would be great to have
If you want to see some fun,
Yeah. No, it'd be good to have a presence of the HPC there.
Right.
Which would be.
Besides me.
Yes, besides Steve, gives Steve some
I'll need some
support.
backup.
Yeah. Yeah. And then I have a letter from the New Jersey Preservation concerning the Lackawanna that I was going to read at the Planning Board meeting, but I'm now told that I can't read it because I'm not a representative of that. I'm not a representative. So at our last meeting, we had a representative from the Montclair History Center read a letter of support to save the historic structures. Should I read that letter into?
What you can do is send it to the board ahead of time.
Right.
Like a week ahead of time, and they can put, I think they're going to be they're not going to be putting together all this stuff.
Yeah. So because the representative who provided the letter won't be available at the meeting to cross-testify, cross-examine from the board, that's why the letter can't be read into the record.
I don't understand that.
Yeah, I don't understand that either.
This is the legal opinion that I'm just conveying with.
Who provided that legal opinion?
That's what I've been told by the attorney for the planning board and the plan director, so I'm just passing that on.
So it can't be cross-examined.
It's the same way someone from the neighborhood can't write a letter to be read.
Correct.
When they don't show up.
Correct.
To
Right.
make public comment.
Yeah, the board has to have the opportunity to ask follow-up questions of the person.
Could that person be available by phone, by teleconference?
I don't think so.
They have to be here and sworn in.
I'm just curious, I want to ask our attorney, can someone actually be sworn in and remotely provide testimony?
To what board?
To any board? I mean, is there any kind of legal standard today for that?
Not that I know of.
I mean, it would seem to me that, why shouldn't somebody be able to provide testimony as long as they're able, for the reasons you've indicated, to respond to questions if they're, via phone or, I mean, I've been in courtrooms where people have, an attorney was on the phone in the court and the judge would speak to the attorney over a speaker. So why couldn't we have that person via phone?
Do we have the technology?
And is this a particular New Jersey or local law? Because in New York City, at the Landmarks Commission, we accept written testimony all the time.
Really?
All the time. We just reviewed the Frick Museum, and for weeks and weeks, we were receiving written testimony, which was read into the record.
So maybe your attorneys in your office can give us some insight as to why that is acceptable, and we can share that with the legal person who guided us otherwise. I mean, I know it's a different state, but maybe there's some...
I mean, I came across a case a couple weeks ago where they addressed that issue of unsworn testimony.
In New Jersey?
Yeah, and they basically said, you know, anything that isn't like sworn testimony, it's not evidential, but it's up to the board's discretion
to allow it.
To read it, but they can't really rely on it for its evidential value. Like, you can get letters from the public, and, you know, you can use the fact that you got 40 letters to show, oh, there's this, you know,
Or you can
there's
also have a
strong
petition.
public,
Or a petition is the same
interest
thing.
in this project. But
Right.
you can't say, well, Joe Smith in this letter said that this project is going to, you know, do X, Y, and Z. Like, you can't put any evidential read on the letters, but you can accept the letters, and you can note the fact that there is this public interest.
So...
And if I'm not mistaken, in the past, they've accepted letters, correct?
This is all questions for the planning
Mr.
board.
D'Angelo, is that, do you know?
Who accepted letters?
The planning board has accepted letters in the past.
So I think we're confusing a couple of things. What Mr. Greenbaum spoke about earlier, sometimes there's some remote TVs you see in courtrooms.
Right.
And when you see that, sometimes we will have like a defendant in a jail remotely come in to do some things like sentencing, working out pleas, things like that. Okay, so that's allowable. Now, that person can't testify in a court of law over the television. They have to be in court. Okay? When Graham says you can't cross-examine a letter, that's like a basic rule. That's not just New Jersey, that's anywhere. If someone's going to testify in a court of law, okay, for example, you can't just bring some affidavit, because the idea is that the person who's on the other side has to be able to cross-examine whoever's giving testimony. So it depends what context it's in. I think what you're describing is some people submit letters and affidavits, and then the person or body, the collective body, can make the decision and give it whatever weight they want.
Correct.
But it's just a general understanding that you can't testify just with a letter. It can't be accepted as evidence or testimony, because the other side, the defense or the prosecution, must be given an opportunity to cross-examine them, you know. And I think the reasons why they don't have people remotely testify, I don't know. I'm just thinking judges want to see. I'm thinking of my judges when they give opinions. I'm thinking of some of the things they say. They say things like, I'm looking at the person's demeanor right now, and I'm watching them in their chair and things like that. I don't know if some of that might be lost on a television screen, which is why they like to have them in live to see, you know, because, like, for example, in our municipal court, as in all municipal courts in New Jersey, the trier of law and the trier of fact is the judge. Whereas you have other civil matters or superior court matters that are indictable offenses, criminal, you have a jury that decides the facts, and the judge decides the law. So, there's all, you see, you know, if you're not a lawyer, you see all different kinds of contexts where people are, you know, brought in via TV screen. It depends on what it is. So it's a real general question about what kind of letters. I don't know what.
Well, what would you say the basic thrust of the letter is? They render an opinion and advocate for a particular position?
Yes, for the position that the...
So couldn't that be read into the record as we have a letter by this particular body, official body, and we wish to share it?
Well, I think, as Mr. Hyman said, it's really up to the board. So it's really at the board's discretion whether they want to admit that or not. So that's why I'm saying these questions are really directed to the planning board. It's really how they are handling this.
So I think
I can't necessarily answer.
would be to go to the meeting and step up either in your official capacity or as a resident and ask if you can read it to them with the...
She's already told she couldn't.
Good. I think that the thing is, you see, we've gotten lots and lots of emails, and you can just send the letter in as another
example
piece,
of, right.
And whether or not it's accepted to be used is up to the board.
Right.
You know, have you distributed that letter?
No, to
us, I'm just saying.
No, but I have a copy of it.
Yeah, I'd love to see it. Thank you.
That's it.
So one more, you just read?
Yes.
Thank you.
And being that this was written for the last planning board meeting on June 18th, I mean, who's to say that a representative won't be at the July 23rd
Right.
meeting? So that could happen.
Well, great. That solves everything.
Right.
And
So,
technically, Barton Ross will be at the meeting. He's a representative of this organization.
I've already gone that route. He's also an employee of the township, and it would be a
Right, he
conflict
can't.
of conflict of interest.
Well, maybe Barton might have a colleague within the organization.
That would be willing to come, and hopefully the meeting won't be canceled.
Right, that's true.
So,
Mike Hanrahan,
Yeah.
you know him.
looking forward to next month, Graham. You say that we have a full agenda.
Do.
Okay.
For both July and August, and just for the Commission's benefit, I did already send Mr. Connolly and Ms. Hickey the plans for next month's meeting. So,
I'm sorry.
The plans for next month's meeting. There's 3 applications. I sent them the applications to start the
Okay,
work.
okay, all right. So and as far as the timeline goes for his,
For the contract.
Contract.
It's snaking its way through the halls of 205 Claremont Avenue. Hopefully, I should have it back on my desk tomorrow.
Okay.
To transmit for signature by Mr. Connolly.
so we're looking forward to having him at our next meeting.
Yes.
Okay, great.
Yeah, we're preparing him to prepare reports and be here at the meeting, so.
Okay.
Great.
Any other comments or questions? No.
Motion to
Just
Adjourn.
adjourn.
Yeah.
I was going to say
I'll
dismiss.
second that.
Third.
All in favor?
Aye.